30 minutes late.
Yeah.
This is
But
awesome.
we made it.
Welcome back, Scott.
Man, that's why we're not IT guys.
Maybe we should be. How crazy. All right. So I'm going to send this back out to everybody in case you don't get to see this live. Not that you care. But I'm Vito Scarnecchia with the Albatano Group powered by Compass. And this is...
And I am Scott Hill. I am the president and owner of Hill Mortgage. And glad to be with you guys today.
Scott, how are rates today?
I have not actually even looked at them yet because we've been working on this all day. I know they were worsening a little bit on Friday, I believe. Yeah. We'll see. Once we get done with this, I'll dive back in and get that figured out. But
so the rates the Feds are testifying on July 20th. Is that correct?
I believe it is. Yes. And from what I understand, we're going to be, getting anywhere from, a half to 3/4, and then a couple more quarters at the next meetings. Get ready for a bumpy ride because
going to be bumpy.
But that'll get factored in, of course, in the rate market, the actual mortgage bond market ahead of time. So. It'll be no surprise when it happens. Rates will already have gone up a little bit. Then the Fed will follow through. They'll adjust the Fed funds rate, and we'll see our equity lines rise, our car loans rise, our credit card rates rise is what will happen. But it'll be baked into mortgage rates ahead of time.
Okay. So that means, we're already kind of seeing rates go. Last week, we saw rates go down a little bit.
A little bit of a dip.
And now we're going to see them go up a little bit, right?
That's correct. I think we got some new. Did we get some new consumer confidence reports recently too? And when the stock market rebounds a little bit, anything helps these days. But that can affect the bonds and affect mortgage rates negatively as well.
Right.
So it's a little roller coaster right now.
Yeah, and it is what it is, right? I mean, I've been working with my investment mentor, trying to figure out how to best lead with buyers and sellers, what kind of conversations we're having right now. I can tell you right now that the paltry dream of finding homes that are listed or you get over list price are very few and far between. The numbers that I'm seeing are 30 days behind, and the last list price to sales price ratio that we saw in Silicon Valley was like 41%. But that's really like a month ago, right? That was a month ago numbers before the rates really went up, before they went crazy.
Right.
And now we're seeing the rates. You're going to see those numbers come down. So, on Wednesday, I'll be going through all those numbers again. So we can have, the baseline of what's going on as far as the market's concerned.
Absolutely.
Our local market compared to other local markets too. So, it seems like everybody's crying. Well, not everybody, right? And here's the thing. I don't want to seem like we're going to be walking into a lot of woe here. I don't know if the market's going to crash. I don't want to be screaming that. I don't want to be yelling at that. But a lot of people are crying that out right now. There's a lot of chicken littles out there saying the market's going to crash. The market's going to crash. So there's still some consumer confidence. I had open house this weekend. Same house from last weekend. Last weekend, I had 14 sets of buyers come through on that Saturday a week ago, and then 6 on that Sunday. And then this last Saturday, I had 16 people come through, 16 buyers come through. So, the buyers are still out there. I think they're kind of holding their breath a little bit and seeing where the market's going to turn.
You probably engaged in some conversations with them. Did you glean any insight into where some of their confidence levels are and why they're there?
There were definitely quite a few investors. The vultures are circling.
Yeah.
I had one lady come up. She's like, well, I live in Almaden Valley, and I wouldn't pay more than $1 million for this house. I go, well, you can go buy $1 million house over in East Side because
Yeah.
this house is worth 1.3
Yeah.
right now. I'm just not going to pay for that. Okay.
Yeah.
Toodaloo.
Yeah.
Right.
Someone else will.
And there are, like on another listing that I have, I had another listing come in. I mean, this is a while back, right? And then last 2 weeks ago, we got an offer for 250,000 under ask. It was like almost insulting, and I calmed the seller down. She wasn't very happy. Like, we should still counter it to see if there's any kind of play in there. And we countered it, and we just haven't come to terms yet. So it's something that's out there. There's buyers for sure that are out there, but they're not aggressively going, oh my God, I have to buy whatever I can buy right now because I have to buy something right now. They're like, I'm going to take my time. I'm going to,
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, real estate, let's face it, real estate in the Bay Area is always going to be fantastic, and we've talked about it on previous shows. Even if we enter some kind of a economic reset, people aren't going to be abandoning their homes. Their homes have a lot of equity, and that is because of post 2008, 2009. We got back to, real rigid underwriting guidelines again, prove your income, prove your assets, and fixed loans and non-interest only loans and limited arms. And every neighbor didn't also have 10 rentals, strewn across the West Coast. So even if you get a bit of a slowdown, reset, whatever, it's still always a great time to buy your home in Silicon Valley, in my opinion, no matter where the rates are. And we also talked about the three things that can cause people worry is, again, I'm going to wait to try to see if homes come down a lot and get a deal. Probably not going to happen the way you think. Number two is rates are getting a little higher. Maybe I should hold off, and buy. Well, why? If you love the house, the rate can always be refinanced later. It makes no sense. As long as you can afford it, right? You might be getting it at a great price now versus what it's going to be in 2 or 3 years when you wait for rates to be lower, but the home's 150,000 more. Doesn't make sense, right? And then the third thing, which I understand, people's stock portfolios have gone down, right? And that can make it a little bit of a gut punch to sell to come up with your down payment and your cash if you don't already have it, in a more liquid type form. So yeah.
There are creative financing options, right? There's the standard conventional FHA, jumbo, those types of loans. But when buyers that need to sell have an open mind, you will get the price that you want or close to it. Yeah. But you also have to be able to be flexible in terms.
Yes.
And now we're becoming far more creative, right? Yeah. We're saying, you can have your price, but what I want you to do is buy down my loan or a seller credit towards some repairs or, maybe like work with a seller carryback, right? Yeah. Maybe you do a 50% conventional loan and then 40%, and there's different ratios. Sure. 40% carryback, and you come in with 10. And the thing is when you look at that, right? Let's just say that our rates go up to 7.5%, whatever those numbers are. Then you go to the seller and go, look, Mr. Seller, I need this to come down for it to work for me. Can we have like a 4% or a 3% loan and a 10-year, right? Amortized over 30 or interest only. It's a 10-year loan, but bring it down to 4.5. Then you have a blended rate of like 5, and it's better than what you can get on the market today.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the old Jerry Maguire movie quote, right? Help me, help you, right? You need to sell. I need to buy. We both have some stumbling blocks here. How can we overcome them together?
Right. Right. Well, the stumbling block that we're going to be seeing, Scott, and I think it's right there on this black and white right there. Is the sellers that want to sell versus the sellers that need to sell.
Yes.
Right. The ones that need to sell will be far more open to creative financing, creative options that will help sellers and buyers come together. Because right now, we've had 18 million buyers exit the market because of affordability, because the rates went up.
Yes.
So I'm on a call. So lots of things that are potentially out there, and you said it, Scott. I'm talking to our buyers, and I'm like, let's see what the market's going to do. We had that San Juan listing, and the seller was just stubborn.
Mm-hmm.
They just absolutely couldn't come to terms with the fact that they need to be a little more flexible, and so we walked away from it.
Yep. You may be getting a call from them too at some point, saying, "Hey, sorry, we thought it out."
Right. But we really do want to sell now. Okay. Let's go back to the drawing board, right? Yeah. And we can be patient about it. We can have the time and energy to do whatever it is we need to do. And you were mentioning it before too. Now that people are, the investors are out circling, right? They're like, I'll try to take pot shots. And if I get lucky, great. Yeah. But the buyers are also kind of sitting out there right now going, hey, I wonder what's going on with the market. But what we're not talking about is there's a lot of people that have exited the market. So there's no competition. Well, there's far less competition. You can be very choosy about what you're buying. And the sellers, you have to be very conscientious about what your competition looks like, because people will look at your house and they're smart. They're not stupid.
Right.
They're going to go, your house is here. And looking at the market, your pricing should be here. So I'm just going to wait until you get desperate enough to bring the pricing down, or you're going to take it off the market.
Right.
And buyers can be picky today.
Yes. Yep. They can, and they are becoming. Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. And that's why it takes, a great real estate agent to help them navigate, so that they can get that price that they want, but also, communicate well with that listing agent to put a transaction together so that both parties do win. And it's not browbeating each other. And it's a dance. Like the recent one that we had, right? You decided the dance is over. I mean, I'm having to come all the way across the dance floor and ask you to get out of your seat. How about we meet somewhere in the middle and where it makes sense, So
right. It's no longer that, will you buy me a mill for that date? It's like, we're going Dutch, pal.
That's right.
Right. And it's been so much of a seller's market for so long. I think what we're seeing right now is just the market's kind of taking a breather here in, Northern California, Silicon Valley. But I think my wife and I were talking about it yesterday. What are the few things that could knock the market out, right? Even if the economy goes to pot, what are some of the things that can start the spiral? What are the tipping points, right? Mm-hmm. And, it could be the housing market, right? We have how many people are buying or had bought houses on for Airbnb,
mm-hmm.
right? Everybody rushed to that, just like back in the 1800s, they went for the gold rush, right?
That's right.
How many people were actually digging for gold got rich?
Yes, there's very few, wasn't it?
Yeah, I just saw a typo. Sorry, I'm like a cat with a shiny object. You can't call me on that right there. But hey, happy 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
That's on my coming thing.
Is that today? I got to get out there.
Yeah, well, I know. My kids won't let me forget that.
Nothing like a Coke Slurpee, at the end of a hard real estate day.
Yeah.
Cool things off.
Is that? Yeah, this is the right one. I was looking for the. So everybody call me on the. That's my standard way of how I spell the TEH.
My wife tells me I've got what's it called, dyslexia coming on, man, because I when I type or I mix even though I know how to spell the word, my brain, as it comes out of my hands to the keyboard, switches letters up, even though I know how to spell the word. I mean, I'll do that 10 times a day easily.
Right.
Or we're working on a client together, and she's telling me, you know, what the debts are and everything. And I'm entering it in, and we're on the phone, we're working through it together, and I'll mix the numbers up that she just told me, you know, as I'm typing it in. And I know what she said, but I typed it in wrong. It's just weird. So you only have one? Hey, that's not bad.
I have one
like
on this slide. I have many more. I can tell you. And I'm just so grateful that I have Grammarly.
Yeah.
Right? Worth every penny.
Yep.
So Powell, he's our Fed chairman, right? The Fed chairman guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's saying we need to do, and he said this back in June. I just saw this, whatchamacallit. What am I doing? Can I go to this? Let's see it. He was saying that, and this is one of many articles that came in, right? He's saying that we need to have a bit of a reset. And I think it's true. What is that reset going to look like, though? Right? I mean, we could speculate. We can look into a crystal ball, but we can both be wrong. You can have 50,000 people tell us what their opinion is.
Yes.
We absolutely have no idea what's going to happen, right?
It's true. We don't. And it's been that way every time. We think we know, we don't. You cannot time it. You can't time real estate, you know. You can. It's called getting lucky most of the time. But it's difficult, you know. But with the economy and what have you, yeah, you're right. We just don't know and when. So it'll be interesting to see. But as a consumer, you just got to be smart right now. You know, you need to be smart with your money, decisions you're making. Should I really be buying that? Should I not be buying that? Is that a need? Is that a want? As a family, those are discussions that should be taken. I know we talk about it. You know, do we really need that? You know, what's coming, we don't know. Just be smart. You know,
right?
I think that's important.
Right. You know, and there's a lot of things that are happening. I have friends. We're talking about buying trucks or cars or whatever. I'm like, is that something you need to do right now? Is it something you're absolutely could you use that money somewhere else?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Could you invest in it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, I listen to Peter Schiff all the time. And he's like, buy gold. It's gonna go up. And you know, I mean, it's a pretty safe vehicle considering you see what's going on with the stock market.
Yeah.
But buying a car right now, it's I don't know if I would buy a car right now. I would definitely wait for the market to see what's going to happen in the next 2 years and let my car around for another couple of years and then find out what's out there.
That's right. One of your slides talked about, well, I think it said materials and whatnot. I mean, cars are right. It's costing more money to ship the car with fuel, more money to build the car, more money to ship the parts for the car. So car prices are outrageous right now, right? And if you got a perfectly fine running car, again, you got to get into the need or want. And a lot of times it's the want. That's why these commercials keep getting more creative. I mean, who doesn't like a good car commercial, right? I mean,
right. Who doesn't like a brand new
that car?
Right. Who doesn't like a brand new car? I'm like, oh yeah, I'd love to have, you know, when we came back from Florida, we rented this big SUV. I'm like, you know, maybe I shouldn't have bought a truck. Maybe I should have had an SUV. Well, that was my mistake. I'm going to wait. I'm not going to jump out and buy, you know, a $75,000, $100,000 car right now. Just not.
No. And we've all been there. It's like, you know, that feeling. It's like, oh, the first couple of days, the car, you just want to drive it around. It smells great. It feels great. Then that first shopping cart dings your door and it's just a car again. And then the onset of what did I do? There's another car that just came out better, has some more features than mine now. Now it's just a car that you've got big old payments on you didn't need, you know. So make sure that you can really afford that car if you're going to do it, because always say to yourself, well, how will I feel about this purchase 2 weeks from now?
Right.
Am I going to feel like I feel today in the dealer showroom, all that excitement and the giddiness? Probably not going to feel it in a couple of weeks. So if you can get that mindset right now while you're thinking about that new car, it might change your thought about it, at least in this economy right now. You know, I think the prices will come down eventually on those cars.
Well, yeah, I mean, I certainly hope so, because it's just, you know, if you see what's on the screen there, it says subprime car loans are seeing a wave of defaults. I've been saying this since 2009, 2010. People should not be driving around unless you can absolutely afford it. People should not be driving around in $7,500,000 cars, right? And
You're right.
people get stuck on the payment and they think it's okay. But what you're buying is a depreciating asset versus
Yes.
a house.
That's right.
So, we had a terrific year back in 2016, and it made sense for us to buy a new truck, which hindsight, again, 50-50. I have scratches, I have dings, I lend it out, and it always comes back with something more on it.
That's right.
What I should have done is bought a beat up old truck and just farted around in it. But hubris, my ego, I bought it. I could have saved thousands of dollars and invested that into a house or gold or stocks or something else. And it is what it is. And that right there, this is what I'm looking at. And I'm thinking, in the next coming years, there's going to be a lot of repossessions.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be able to buy a truck. I'm not saying 50 cents on a dollar because that's probably not going to happen.
Right.
But wouldn't it be awesome?
Yeah. But it's amazing to me that, some of the loans that get made to some people, for a car, but the reason they take the chance is it's something that is more recoverable easily than a house. You can come in the middle of the night and take the car back. You can't get a house back that easy. Right. So a lot of lenders are willing to they're being counting the numbers, right? All right, I'm going to lend subprime loans on 10 cars. I'm going to make a killing on these interest rates because these are really risky buyers. So that's going to cover some of the defaults we're going to take, just like with how the credit cards do all their math, and take on risky clients. Because it just blows my mind. I'll be looking at a credit report, and I'm looking. Some of these clients, they want to buy homes, and I'm sitting here going, they have two cars, $130,000 loans between the two of them, $1,800 in car payments, and now they want to buy a home. And I wish I had gotten to them before they went and did all that, because it's just drastically reduced their buying power. On top of the homes have gone up, on top of the interest rates have gone up, and now they're not going to qualify for near what they had hoped. It's education, right? It's trying to get them at the right time before they can do something crazy like that.
Right. And, you can tell somebody 100 times, and that's what these videos are all about, is trying to tell people how to be conservative and create a plan, create a 5-year plan to get into a house. Don't go, I'm going to buy a house tomorrow. I'm going to show up at an open house and try to, finagle my way in and not have a loan approval. And, you can do that, but you're going to get into trouble where you're not going to be completely educated on the whole process and where you can save money and how you can creatively buy a house.
I love it when a client says, Scott, everything we've just done, we've walked through all this. It doesn't seem right now. I need to pay off some more debt. Maybe I'm ready in 6 months, 12 months. Yes, that's the answer I want to hear. Absolutely.
Right.
But it's going to happen. You're going to own a home, but you need to take some action now to eliminate that debt. It's going to make you feel good. You're going to have better cash flow. It's going to improve your credit score. Then you're ready to buy a house.
And you're going to sleep better.
All your debt. Yeah. You sleep better. Yeah. You buy the house right now, if you're going to be living on top ramen, you're going to have buyer's remorse. Maybe it goes up in value, but you still can't afford it. And it's a horrible thing to take on a house payment that you can't afford. And sometimes people just they can't afford it. But let's get them in a position that they can afford it, because we want them to own a home and they can do it. But they just need a couple detours and to take and get themselves in a position, and they'll be fine. But it's education.
It's doing it the smart way, right? I mean, we're working with a veteran right now, and you and I are working with them, and we're talking about getting him into a fourplex and looking at VA loan versus conventional, and he's still taking his time thinking about it, right? Massaging it in his brain, and and I get it, right?
Yeah,
that's something. Buying a house isn't something you should do over a weekend. This is a long-term plan, especially with the kind of money that we're talking about. I mean, if you're in like St. Louis, Missouri, you can pick up a house for $150,000, buy it. Right? Don't even think twice about it. But it's $1.5 million. You need to have a plan.
Yeah.
And
it's absolute truth. You got to make sure the math works, understand the tax deductions, understand any future purchase that you may have to make down the road,
Right.
even though you're making the initial decision right now. Is there anything coming up? Is you have a child going to college soon? Is your car about to break down? Like we were just talking about cars, right? So you got to factor that into those decisions. And that's where, income to debt ratios really come in handy. That's why I like that metric that, all lenders use to help someone realize the comfortability level that they're at now and what it could be with debt elimination, or on the other hand, accumulation of more debt that might be coming down the road.
Yeah. And if you're, so I guess the average American has $2,500 in savings, right?
Yeah.
So the last couple of years, all the gurus were saying, invest in stocks, invest in this, and buy Airbnbs, and buy this and this and this. And I just kind of sat back, and my wife and I were like, no, that's not the right time. It's not the right time. And we collected money, and she's such a squirrel. Like putting every dollar away. She gives me $20 a week. We joke, right? I have a very limited allowance, but the money that we save, that goes into investing in the future. And now we're talking, we're having all these conversations all around looking at different houses in different areas. We're looking at Vegas and in Phoenix and in Florida and all over the place, even on the beach, trying to figure out where the next landslide is going to be so we can take advantage of it. And yes, this is where people will lose their assets, and they lose their ass, in their holdings because they bought on a whim. They didn't have a strategic plan. And, I'm telling you, like the Airbnb, in the next couple of months, you're going to see Airbnb owners crashing. They're going to be like, I need to sell. I need to get out. I need to short sell. And then the banks are going to take them back. And I think that's going to be one of the tipping points. So we're just sitting there kind of looking at different destination areas, figuring out what's going on with the market, seeing the value the number of listings just increase 100-fold every couple of weeks. It's coming. It's coming. And there'll be some opportunities there, for sure. It's great if these opportunities do present themselves, just from a lending standpoint. The underwriting that goes into it now is so much more solid and risk adverse than it was back then. So, I feel good about it being more of a slower decline, a safer decline, and it being a great investment long term, because you're not going to be coming in with zero down on an investment property without checking income or anything like that. So the lenders themselves are going to make sure it's a good investment for them, which in turn is going to make it safe for you, the consumer, purchasing that property. Yeah. And overall, that's going to be good for our economy down the road. Do you work with non-QM? Yes, I do. In fact, I have one going right now. Gentleman wants to buy a $2.1 million home, and he went through the big bank, big box bank, Wells Fargo, who told him everything was fine. And then it turns out when he's in contract, everything's not fine. And there were a couple mortgage lates that happened accidentally when he had done a refinance on another property. And, when they sell your loan and you're not paying attention and you're paying the wrong person. So he got some accumulative lates and a drop in mortgage or a credit score. Anyway, we saved the day. We swooped in to save the day, got him into non-QM. And ironically, non-QM is the new starting to, right? We've already had a couple big lenders go down. It was FMGC, I think it was, and Sprout Mortgage just closed their doors. Yep. And all of the other lenders, and thank goodness I got that gentleman into his loan when I did, because they're obviously much more flexible on the underwriting guidelines, but they're tightening up those guidelines now for anybody afterwards.
maybe dropping the loan to values, dropping the credit scores. They're even starting to protect themselves, and that's kind of where you go when you don't fit into, the A bucket, if you will.
Right.
But I'm glad we have those.
And those aren't subprime loans, right? Those are
No.
creative.
Yeah, they're creative. You don't have to meet some of the harsher regulations that you do on a conventional loan or your typical jumbo loan or what have you. They're allowed to get around some of the the CFPB protections that have been put in place on the other loans. You still got to qualify, right? Subprime used to be fog and mirror. That was the problem. Okay. Well, you still got to prove your income. Now, maybe you're self-employed and you're going to use bank statements, or you're going to go off your tax returns and not show, W-2s or pay stubs or what have you. Those still are there. They're available. But even those are tightening up a little bit right now.
Right.
But it is a great alternative when you don't qualify for a traditional mortgage. And then you simply improve your situation that caused you to need a non-QM loan, which is non-qualified mortgage, which is what your Fannie Mae loans are. Those are qualified mortgages. And then you simply refinance down the road when you fix your situation, and you're back in an A-type paper loan again. So,
and you're going to pay a little bit more on the rates.
Yes.
You're going to pay a little bit more on the points or the closing costs, but you're able to get into it and solve the problem that's causing it.
Absolutely. I asked the client, I said, all right, listen, I'm going to be straight up with you here. You're going to pay more on the points and on the, the interest rate here, but who cares? You're going to get the home. I said, but I need to know how you feel. That's how I feel. How bad do you want the home on a scale of 1 to 10? He said, Scott, it's the dream home I want. It's a 10. I said, all right, then let's talk about how it's going to be a little different initially. So, all right, so you're in this loan for 12 months. Big deal. What's it going to cost you? A few $1,000s more, but you're getting the home that's going to bring you tens of thousands of dollars in the future,
right?
By taking action on it right now and buying the home. Restructure the loan down the road. Let's get into the home. And he totally agreed. And that's what's great about those products. And then of course you got what I call the C loan, or bucket number 3, and that's private money. And that's going to be higher than a non-QM, but that's solving an even tougher problem for somebody. But you're going to need a really strong down payment for something like that.
Right. And that's, we don't really I don't typically work with people that require to have a hard money loan, because it's very expensive and it's a short-term solve, and it's mostly for investors, etc. Like, we're talking about all these different creative financial ways, right? Non-QM seems like if I was to buy a house or a fourplex or multifamily or whatever, I think the best way for me to go is using that income as part of the qualification score, right? So I would look at a fourplex and say it brings in X amount of money that would go towards qualifying for it.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know if you've heard of DSCR. Have you heard of DSCR financing? Debt service coverage ratio. Yeah. And what's great about that is there's a lot of people out there that, they don't have a typical job, but they invest in rental property. And, you add up all the math on some of the properties they own. Maybe they bought a few that maybe are underwater a little bit or whatever. They don't have a traditional income, but they're really good at investing in real estate. And why should we, keep them out of the market? So you take a DSCR non-QM loan, and it's based on the cash flow of that property, not your overall picture, because they're only on the hook for that loan, that particular lender lending it. And as long as it makes sense financially, you can get a DSCR loan pretty easily if the property's cash flowing, even though your traditional income to debt ratios might not be where they need to be. So it's great loan program for investors.
Right. So, going into investing when you're starting out, obviously you're going to do like a conventional or a jumbo, or because you're going to have the standard 20% down. But then once you max out, a conventional bank like a B of A or Wells Fargo, and even some of the broker banks will max you out at like 2 or 3 or 4 homes at that point, right? And then you're kind of forced to go to non-QM as an option. and then you have
Yeah.
hard money, and then you can find it like a real estate investment trust or create your own or whatever. There's thousands of different ways of doing it.
Yeah. And exactly what you're talking about, non-QM. I had to do a couple loans for a gentleman recently, and they had what we thought was 21 properties. It turned out they had 20. We had to stay at 20. But they'll allow you to have a lot more in the portfolio that a traditional lender won't allow. So they definitely serve a purpose. But even they're starting to tighten up a little bit now. And as we just mentioned, a couple of them have closed their doors.
Right. So, I was wondering over the weekend, because you sent me the one on Sprout. I was like, what's going to happen to all those loans? They don't service the loans, or maybe if they service it, there's got to be like a required plan of these loans that we service are going to now go over to XYZ servicing company, right?
Yeah, it's correct. And if there's not an appetite for them, right? If there's not a risk appetite, then you've got to change the terms so that you take some of the risk out of it, so that there will still be an appetite, right, to purchase that investment. So, and if there's less appetite, you're going to have to react. You're either going to change and adapt, or you're going to go down, one of the two.
Right.
And so there are some well-capitalized non-QM banks that will survive this and are going to do fine. We're not seeing the collapse. They had a thing called Implodometer. Do you remember that?
No.
2008, 2009. Oh yeah, there was a website you can go to. I think it was called Mortgage Implodometer or something like that. And it would just list every time a new company went down, they'd add it to the list, and the list just kept growing every day. And it was kind of sad, to be honest,
Right.
but it was just the way it was. So we've got two that we're aware of right now that have gone down. And this is, again, for those of you that are watching, this is a non-QM space. It's not your regular Fannie Mae loan, so don't be alarmed. It's not like there's a mortgage collapse going on right now. But some of the loans we're discussing now have more of a risky component to it. And so therefore, when the market does adjust slightly, you can see some problems start to happen when the volume coming in is much less, depending on how they're positioned.
Yeah, it was like a stack of cards, remember? Because back in, I think 2020, they halted mortgage requirements or mortgage payments, where they said we're going to stall having to do that. Well, those servicing companies, they still had to pay the investors.
Yes.
There was no solve for that. So that hurt a lot of companies. And what you're seeing now, what's not in the headlines is there's a lot of mortgage companies, big mortgage companies, origination companies that are merging as well, right?
Yeah, they'll tend to do that at this point. When they see more security coming together, you got something to offer, we don't. We got something to offer, you don't. Let's join forces and be more powerful and more safe and secure for ourselves and for our consumer. Absolutely.
Right, and that's great, because you get to see people exit the market. Well, but the founders of those companies, a lot of them will exit the company and start something else eventually because they have a big payout.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's safety in numbers, right? And you have those
more jobs. Mm-hmm.
Right. Speaking of jobs.
That's a good lead in, huh?
Yeah.
That was not intended.
No, that was just a great segue. It was like, boing. Last night I drew this little thing, and it's kind of horrible. Let me see if I can get it on the main screen real quick. Hang on. Right here. Well, you can't really see it, but that's my chicken scratch right here.
Okay.
Of what's going to happen to the market and all the tipping points, right? So I didn't write it out because I just didn't have time. Because I went to the gym, and I came back sweaty, and all of a sudden we had 45 minutes of panic and technology. But everything that we've been talking about over the last couple of weeks, right? The inflation going up, rates going up, stock market going down, all that's going to relay into layoffs.
Yeah.
Right? It's coming.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of time, right? Because layoffs happen right before the quarter, the company's quarter, and let's just say Intel. I don't know anything about Intel. I'm not saying that they're going to start doing layoffs, but Cisco does it too. And I know this is like their pattern. When they have lower than expected sales,
Yeah.
they lay off people.
Yeah.
By the thousands.
Yes.
Right. And
then that in turn impacts housing, right?
Well, yeah.
Affordability.
Because what's happening with my Netflix and Facebook buyers?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Their down payment goes away.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, we're just going to hold tight for right now. I'm just going to try to figure out what's going on. Mm-hmm. My value just went down to about 30% of what it was.
Yeah.
We're just going to hold off.
Yeah.
And rightly so, right? But at the same time, like, this is the time for people. If you're going to buy a house, if you're in the position to buy a house, this is the time to do it, because there's less investors in the market. There's less buyers in the market. And yes, you're going to have a crappy loan. I'm not going to say it's a crappy loan, especially if it's from you, Scott. But at the same time, it's not 2.25%.
Hey, no loan's crappy if you need it.
But eventually, the market will come down, and you're probably never going to see 2.25 again.
Highly unlikely. Not in our lifetime, but
right.
But unless, I can see us getting back into the fours again. Maybe even high threes. Just depends. Again, we don't know. No crystal ball, right? We've heard that a million times. But I have a magic 8 ball. Maybe that'll give us some better insight.
Outcome seems unlikely.
Yeah.
I think what we're seeing, and I think we've said it a few times, this is the new normal. 4.5, 4.25 is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
5 and 6, that's going to be the normal.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I think you mentioned earlier, we're expect 7.5 by the end of the year. I'm thinking. But again, some world event could change that. We don't know. It could be higher than that. It could be lower than that. But if it goes the way it appears to be going, we'll probably be there. So another reason why it's a great opportunity to still buy a home or sell your home, right now, because it's going to cost you more down the road if you decide then's the time to buy and your interest rate's higher. But even if you do, again, a loan is a loan. It can be replaced at any time with a newer, better loan. But you get one chance to strike on the purchase of the home,
right?
And that's all you get. You can't rebuy the home.
My investor mentor, he says it doesn't matter what you pay for the house as long as the yield, your ROI, right? As long as your payment is palatable, it doesn't matter, because in 10 or 15 years, you're going to forget. You're going to be like, what did I pay for it? Wow, we sure got a good deal, right? When I bought this house that we're living in, I bought it for $690,000, and I thought it was really crazy ass expensive. And we were the second highest. Yeah. The other guy was an investor, and the seller, I wrote a nice little letter, and the seller's like, oh, we want a family to live here. So I saved $50,000 at the time, which is good. What she said was $50,000.
Right.
But I look back and I'm like, damn, that was a really good deal. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the mindset you have to have. You can't, when you're buying, you have to buy for 5, 10, 15 years from now. I know we've been here for 20. So
that's correct.
Don't worry about it. As long as the payment is palatable.
Yes.
And you know what you're getting into, right?
Yeah.
Because a non-QM at 7.5%, and you're paying points to buy it down or whatever, and it's going to be a little bit more expensive. In 5 years, within the next 5 years, chances are it's going to go below 5%.
That's right. You probably spent that money in Starbucks that you're worried you're going to lose by doing the non-QM by that point.
Or the brand new car that you overpaid for.
That's right. That's right.
Right? So depreciating asset versus a devaluing asset. It just, I mean,
I tell clients to get excited about, all right, maybe the payment's a little higher than you wanted, but it's going to feel good knowing that you're going to get a statement every month showing the principal's going down. Do you get that right now with your Does your landlord send you that?
No. You're getting a rent increase, and everybody's like, "Oh, landlords are so selfish. They're so greedy." No, you know what? Only in California do we get to enjoy something called Proposition 13, right? Which is you buy at $100,000 and it will incrementally go up a maximum of 2% every year. If the market goes up 8 or 12 or 20%, it's still 2% every year.
That's right.
You buy in Florida or Nevada or wherever, it goes up to whatever the value is that it's reassessed every year.
Yes.
So if you buy a house as an investment in Vegas or wherever, and for $500,000, and next year it's worth $1 million, your taxes increase by double.
That's right.
So you have to tell the renter, your tenant, "Hey, Mr. Tenant, I'm sorry that I have to do this to you, but your rent just went up." And they're like, "Oh, that sucks. We can't do that. That's not fair." Well, it's the value. And here's the reason why. If you're a tenant, buy a house. I know you can't do that because most of Americans only have $2,500 in savings, but that's why it takes time to plan this out. Pay off all your debt. Don't buy a freaking crazy ass expensive house. Start saving. Let your friends laugh at you about your $20 a week allowance, because that's what happened to me 20 years ago. People were laughing. My friends were like, "You get $20 a week? How do you survive?" Yeah. Well, look at, I'm in a place now where I'm comfortable, right?
Yeah. And I teach most clients that are starting out for the first time, and my mentor taught me this years ago. And he taught seminars on it, which was great to our clients. He'd come into town and teach seminars, but it was 6 steps to wealth. And you follow them in order. They're pretty common sense. Number one is you got to have a budget. If you don't have a budget, you don't know what you're spending. You don't even see that you're not saving anything. And you don't even see that your debt's accumulating or whatever. You got to have a budget. What's coming in, what's going out. And you got to pay yourself first. If not, you got a lot of adjusting to do. But you have to start with the budget.
Right.
Number 2, debt free. All consumer debt gone. Mortgage debt good. Consumer debt bad. Gone. Right.
And there's an investment debt too, right?
Correct. If you're leveraging an asset that's going up in value, great. Car debt, nope, not good. But sometimes you need it. So there are exceptions, but then you want to quickly get yourself out of that as soon as you can. Number 3, notice we haven't said anything about retirement yet. Number 3 is you need to look at that budget, add up all your monthly debts. And I mean, every debt. I mean, even if you go to the dentist twice a year, well, what is that if you divide it monthly by 12? Add that.
Times 5, because you have 5 people in your family.
Yeah, right?
Right.
Add that three times that minimum. That's called your survival number, by the way. You've got to pay that whether you have a job or not. That has to leave your family wallet, your household wallet, to go pay whether you're working or not. So you got to know what that number is. That's called your survival number, or you're going to be going into credit card debt. So you got to have the cash to do that, live that lifestyle. So you better have 3 times that minimum. I like 6, but if you get to 3, great. In a money market account, right? It sits there. That's your insurance policy for your family. That's your, oh my gosh, I lost my job for a month. I can still pay my bills and not go into credit card debt, right? Until I get another job. Okay, that's your security. That's your sleep well at night, peace of mind, feeling. Number 4, max out your retirement plan. Okay, I have clients that are putting money into their retirement plan and they're carrying $30,000 in credit card debt, paying 12%, making 6%. And you see that, but they've been told they've got to do this. Well, yeah, you do got to do it, but in the right order. You're at a deficit now, so you immediately stop the retirement planning. You get rid of your debt, which is now an investment in itself, getting rid of the debt. And then you go and you fully max out your retirement plan. Then number 5, you start getting into buying mutual funds, things of that nature. Not individual stocks. Too risky for most people. They don't know what they're doing.
Right.
All right. That's like number 6. So 6 can be prepay on your mortgage. Some people want to do that. It's probably, at an interest rate that's less than what you can get in the market though. So do it or don't do it. It's up to you. It's a personal choice. but stocks is the very last thing. Individual stocks, the very last thing you do. So I say let's just focus on the first four, because that's really what matters most. Budget, debt free, 3 times survival number in the bank, money market account, not in your saving account, in a money market that you don't touch. It's there for emergency. And then number 4, max out your retirement. That will save most people if they follow those simple steps. But most people don't even know what's coming in or going out, and that's why most companies fail, right? They don't know what's coming in and what's going out,
or they're
not
lie
making
about
adjustments. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And the number one reason why these people get into trouble, and it happened in 2008, is it's like a seller. Why a house doesn't sell? It's ego.
Yeah.
Right. Ego. I need to have that bling bling in my Mercedes and my Gucci bag and all that stuff. And I don't know if you see this. This is I have 4 of these. This is my uniform.
That's great.
Right. I'm a very conservative person.
Yeah.
I don't walk around and name brand anything. Right. I don't. And if I do, it's because it was on sale.
Yeah.
But I grew up in a family matrix where my aunt was the matriarch, and her and her husband are very wealthy today, but they still live a life of, because they're World War II, right? Grew up in World War II and poor, and that was their mentality. You have to hoard and take money and not spend it lavishly.
Frugality was the word you were looking for, right?
Frugality. They have beautiful homes. They have this 3,000 square foot penthouse a condo in Puerto Vallarta with a 3,500 square foot patio. It's just this big, huge, palatial, gorgeous house. But they earned it. They didn't go out and buy the bling. They went out and invested correctly.
And it goes up in value. He's not walking around with a $10,000 Rolex on his hand.
Right. Everybody laughed at him when he bought it for like $600,000. Now it's probably worth $1.5–2 million, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it is what it is. And people would say, I would pay you anything for this house. Who said it's not for sale because I enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. You said it in credit card. That's one of my tipping points on my little sheet, right? People are living day to day on their credit cards. And you know what? I was guilty of that before I met my wife. I was, as a contractor, I was a carpenter, and 3 months out of the year, I was unemployed and broke and living off my credit cards, and I had debt up the wazoo. And then I met my wife, and she took my money, and I had horrible credit because I wasn't making the credit card payments, and they charged me off. And I want to say I was like between $500 and $600, whatever. And that was a turning point in my life. Right. It was something where I had to go, you know what? I'm going to pull my big boy pants up. I'm going to start acting like an adult and start taking my lunch to work.
Yeah.
And, 25 years later, we're in a much better position.
It's funny. I look at so many credit reports and, a husband and wife or whatever, or, partners, whatever. And I always go, somebody's helping someone else have a good credit score. Because somebody's running the finances, is paying the bills, right?
Right.
And my wife pays all our bills. That's what she likes to do. That's what she does. And so I'm like, hey, thanks for getting me this great credit score. I appreciate it.
1 year, a couple of years ago, we did our credit cards. I can't remember why we were like buying. I can't remember. And I go, I have a better credit rating than you do.
Yeah.
And we kind of joke about it because if she died today, I would be lost.
I think about that every day myself. You won't see me for a couple months as I'm trying to figure everything out, get my life together, man.
I know. I'm going to have to go hire somebody to take care of all this crap, all the bills that I have to pay. And there's got to be like a service. I think it's like, I don't know if an accountant would do a personal finance. I don't know. But anyway.
Yeah. But they do so much for us. It's unbelievable. We're lucky. Very lucky.
Very lucky. So, and I think Jill's talked to you about this too. She has a little side hustle where she helps people create that budget, like the 6 steps, like your guide used to do. And, it's just this thing. I think the way you planned it out, though, it's much smarter. You just you make your choices, but the first thing you do is you figure out what your budget is and you put your big boy pants on and you start living underneath your means, because otherwise you're going to be renting forever. And don't rent. Stop renting. Stop paying somebody.
Absolutely. And it's okay to say that you've got to pay yourself first. I remember when the meltdown happened in 08 and 09, and we were doing okay, but I was maxing out the 401k all the time. And even when, gosh, there was a time when there were loans were not coming in. No one's buying homes. We were having foreclosures. It was going crazy. And I remember it was nice to say, instead of, having to pay off a bunch of debt, I'm putting money, I'll turn the dial down on my 401k to help with cash flow. And there were times where I'd be like, man, there's no money left over at the end of the month. And I'd look at my budget and go, oh, it's because we're paying ourselves first. We're putting it all into the 401k. We're and gosh, even my wife's like, man, I'm so glad you had me doing that way back when in 2001. And, and we were religious at it. But there were a couple of times in there where we stopped doing our 401k. For a couple of years, we stopped doing it. And then, the market started getting better again. Then we're back to full contribution again. But the key was to first get out of debt. Because if you're in debt, it makes it really hard to save anything.
It's a never-ending cycle.
Yeah, I'll tell you. And usually people are in debt. There are some circumstances that's out of their control. But a lot of times it's emotional purchasing. It's not being smart. It's not. And this is where you and I both know it should have been taught in school when we were kids. There should have some classes we took that were worthless to us now. How about a finance class when you're a kid? It's common sense, but that's not how society, is laid out. It's they for whatever reason, I don't know why the school system never taught that, but we'd be a lot better off if more people had financial sense. So that's why I'm always trying to teach clients when I can, when I think they need it, that it is important to understand those few basic concepts. And they'll come back to me a couple months later. Oh my gosh, Scott, I'm so much better off because you told me cut off the 10 credit card, cut them up, get to one credit card that gives you a lot of points because you have more chance of being late. You're juggling 10 credit cards with $800 on each of them. Why in the world would you do that? It's because the credit card companies keep going. I'll give you 10% off today if you take our card at this department store, at this, and they keep getting these perks and they start using them. Oh, I got, anyway, you got to get yourselves out of debt if you can, as soon as you can. The world is so much better on the other side of being in debt. I've been there. It's not fun. Oh, yeah. And you got to change your lifestyle, and you got to ask yourself, am I being emotional on what I'm about to do, in the purchase I'm about to make? And once you get past that, then it gets exciting watching that debt go down, and you realize that I'm actually saving money. I'm making money because that's money that would have been going to interest to some credit card, company. And so anyway,
right.
It's super important,
I always say something about people with tattoos because I don't have a tattoo and I love tattoo art. I respect the idea behind tattoo. My stepbrother is a tattoo artist. Mm-hmm. But every time I see somebody with a full set of sleeves and I'm around my kids, I go, that's a down payment for a house right there. And my wife goes, stop being so judgmental. I go, I'm not being judgmental. That's the guy's choice. That was his choice to do that.
That's right.
Right. Or smoke 10 packs a day or drive around in a big, uneconomical truck like I do.
I got an F-150. I hear you.
But those are choices that you make, right? And, in my mind is like, yeah, I'd love to have a tattoo. My aunt would kill me. My mom would kill me. I'm 53 years old. I'll be 54 next month. My aunt, my mom and aunt would still kill me if I showed up with a tattoo. But I already have it in my head. And in my head, and I always have it, I already know what I want it to be. Now I just have to, get to the next point. My next point is always the next hill, the next milestone that I want to get to. And for me right now is after we get through this next buying cycle, and I'm telling you, there's going to be a buying cycle. I don't think it's going to be here in the Silicon Valley, but I think outwards, in different places, there's going to be some serious great deals to be had.
Yeah. Yeah, I
After
agree.
this buying cycle, we're going to be far more financially set. I don't know what that's going to look like. I have an idea. I have a goal in mind, but I don't know what's going to wind up being. So,
That's right.
that's the thing, right? You have to look outside. So, Scott, definitely get your license in Florida.
Yeah. I'm working on that. Absolutely.
And Vegas,
and Nevada, and Arizona.
Arizona. Texas is a wash. I don't know what's going to happen with Texas, but
yeah, we'll have to see there. Well, you got cool. On here foreign real estate market.
Oh, so, and I could be completely off because this is all hearsay. I haven't actually notice I don't have any resource links to prove my point. This is all hearsay, but Canada has different types of mortgage system than we do, and it's short term, amortized over 30 years, but it's short term. So every 5 years you have to refinance. That's my understanding. So people in Canada who bought 2, 3, 4 years ago are lining up to have to refinance their loan again. And if I'm wrong and you're listening to this, please show me how the system works. And I'm going to do some more research on this. But let's just say you bought a house for $500,000 Canadian in 4 years ago, and now your term is up and you have to refinance it. People are speculating on the fact that your house is going to be so much more unaffordable right now because your 3% is now 7 or 8%, that there's going to be a huge problem there. The real estate market has already halted or stalled pretty much in most metropolitan areas in Canada. And these are, again, hearsay, as well as New Zealand, right? Last year, we heard of a company in China that was a holding company, multi-billion-dollar holding company. I can't remember. Again, I had it written down and I didn't type it down. So they defaulted, right? Which put China on edge because that was a major part of their GDP, was building apartments so they can put the mass population into areas where they can go and work in the factories or what have you. That company defaulted, and there's a new one that just defaulted, and I want to call it Yursay. I can't remember what it said. Did I have it written down here? No. But they just missed their first interest payment of $1 billion. A company missed their first payment. And again, it's a holding company in China. So, and the reason why I bring these up is because I want to not scare people or do this dramatically. I just need people to understand that we're in a global economy. A lot of countries are seeing turmoil. Johnson just retired. There's another country, East Indies, just their prime minister just retired or resigned. The Japanese, the former premier of Japan, was assassinated.
Yeah,
there's going to be a lot of crazy upheaval and turmoil that's going on economically and globally that we're going to have to account for, and we're not talking about it in the mass media, right?
No, you're right.
In my Wednesday talk, I always have this thing about, I don't give you what the answer is because I honestly don't know, but I'm reading the tea leaves. I'm showing you the tea leaves and what I'm seeing. And a lot of it is what you're seeing here in the headlines, right? Like crypto and stock market and all this other stuff. But everything is just, it's all connected. We're all connected somehow, some way. And there's going to be a tipping point where something comes crashing down and it's all a house of cards.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I knew that Canada had a different lending format, but wasn't sure exactly how it worked in the five-year increments. But it sounds about right to me, and that's tough. That's tough, having to redo that loan that could cause your payment to go up quite a bit. Um, we got the best system, in the world here.
Yeah.
People locked up in the twos for years to come. It's pretty
Right.
awesome.
Right. Right. I
We're
mean,
fortunate.
think about Canada, New Zealand, Australia. They were all locked down, like internment camps locked down during the COVID thing.
Yeah.
The people were being put into camps and treated horribly. And now, just like we have to pay for that $7 trillion printing job that we just did, those countries have to pay back somehow. They have to pay back somehow, right?
Yeah.
Our payback is high interest rates, $7 per gallon of gas, or $6 right now. But
yeah,
right, all that has to be paid back, and we have to pay it back. Your government wrote the check, but we have to pay it back somehow.
That's right. Always the consumer.
Right. Not the Soros and the multi-billionaires. It's the blue collar, you and me.
That's right. It all goes to the consumer. Even back when the meltdown happened in 08 and 09, and they, government said, all right, we're going to come in and create these, appraisal management companies, AMCs. Well, now you got a middleman. Well, what happened to the cost of appraisals? They went up. Well, who's paying them? The consumer.
What happened with all the bank bailouts?
Yeah.
Right. They were all bailed out. Their CEOs and major management got bonuses while people were getting kicked out of their house.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I know it's big man, little man, it's all of that stuff, but it's going to happen again. It's going to happen again. Right. And if you're poised and ready for it, we sold a couple of our investments before we ever heard of COVID, just because we thought that this is the time for the market. And then all of a sudden the market goes, takes off.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with that, right? I'm okay losing a little bit of money, because now I am poised. I have very little debt. I have some money in savings. I have some money in stocks, just like you said, I'm lined up. I'm ready to go. And again, I don't think it's going to happen terribly here. I think rates are going to come down a little bit. Yeah. I mean, values are going to come down a little bit. Maybe 10, 15%. But like in Palo Alto, where people have money, they're not going to be hurting. People are buying houses, multi-million-dollar houses, $3, $5, $8 million houses for cash.
Yeah, it's insane.
Right?
I know.
Those guys are not going to hurt. It's the little guys like you and me and the smaller people that are going to get massively pummeled by this. And that's why it's important to do that 6-step thing that you were talking about.
Yeah.
It's massively important.
Really, really is. You'll be so much better off years down the line if you just start now with that thought process. If you're in debt, get out of debt. Well, where do you start? You go online and you print out a typical budget. Here's what goes out every month. Here's what comes in every month. What are you doing with that money? Where's it going? And then start directing it where it needs to go. And you're going to be in great shape years from now.
Yeah. And in the meantime, if you need some help, there's coaches out there. You can go to local churches. You can go to the Better Business Bureau. You can go to all sorts of stuff. My wife has a program. Yes, you're going to pay for it, but she'll walk you through the entire thing. Because what I learned in the world, right, is the Pareto's rule, the 80-20 rule, right? You have 20% of the people that do very, very well for themselves because they're disciplined. They have everything else. And I'm not saying that the 80% aren't. They're aware of it. They just, one thing is missing, right? Whether it's discipline, the means, they get laid off, fortune, what have you. It's just, that's the way things happen. And I know I'm here with the 7-Eleven thing here.
I'm getting kind of thirsty, man.
Having somebody tap you on the back of the head and say, let's go. This is the direction we want to go, right?
Yeah.
Checking in with you weekly, somebody that's there to, I hate to say it this way, but hold your hand. Sometimes you need it. Sometimes you need to have a coach, right? There's business coaches, there's life coaches, there's all sorts of things. And that's what my wife does. She offers her service as a financial coach. and it's non-invasive. She tells you, hey, you set up your budget, you figure it out, and then you can report back to me and I will hold your hand.
That's great.
And that's awesome. Oh, yeah. Notice I have your name and phone number here too, right?
Yeah.
So if you're watching this,
are you inviting me over to your house to clean up, or?
Well, how else do you think I can afford to buy houses? Actually, I can't afford to buy a house right now. I've been saying this for the last couple of weeks, and I don't know if you get something like this up in Alameda. You're in Alameda, right?
Okay.
This is Santa Clara County.
Yeah.
And this is a reminder from the tax guy.
Yeah.
Larry Stone. I met him. He's a pretty funny guy. But he, as in all counties, have this program that if you just bought a house, let's just say you bought a house for $1 million, and in the next coming months, it lowers in value, you're entitled to ask for a reduction in assessment. Right? So if it goes down to $800,000, your house was bought at $100,000 or $1 million, you're paying taxes on the assessed value of $1 million, and 6 months from now, it's now worth $800,000. You can go to Mr. Stone and say, hey, Mr. Stone, this piece of paper, well, there's actually a law saying that I can ask for a reduction in assessment, which means your property taxes are going to be lower temporarily. And the first thing you do is you want to talk to your licensed real estate professional and ask for a justification or a CMA or a mini appraisal to prove that your value has indeed gone down to $800,000. And then we'll send you a link that you can do it. And I know you can do it in almost every county in the United States.
Yeah, I believe you're right. I believe you're right on that. And a lot of people, they're not going to put it up on a Goodyear blimp and go fly over your neighborhood and say, have you called your county tax assessor to reduce, right? So that's why it's great you're putting that information out right now, because they're not going to try to take in less revenue unless you follow up with them first.
$500 million in revenue in that's one county.
Right.
And they cry that they're broke.
Yeah.
They don't cry that they're broke. They're just, a lot of that money goes to labor, which is sheriff and fire and all that, Board of Education, all that stuff. But also it goes to retirement. That's the tough thing, right? So
yeah.
Crazy time. So anyway, the next couple of weeks, I'm putting this out there just because of the off chance I catch an extra person and I help them save their house or help them save a couple $100 or whatever.
Absolutely. Right? No, that's great. That's great. I can go to paying some debt down.
Yeah. Or go buy some food.
or fill up half a tank in your big old truck. I know it's over $200 to fill up my F-150 now. I'm driving a 2012 F-150.
Was it 50 gallons?
No, it's 32.
Holy moly.
I mean, it's like sometimes $6.49 a gallon. Do the math on that. You're pushing $200 plus. Depending on where I fill up. It's funny. Some of the gas stations now, they stop at 100, so I have to start all over again. Right? Go to the credit card back in again. Get the next 100.
It's painful to see that.
Yeah.
And I know we had that problem in 2008, which is another tea leaf.
Yeah.
But we were having that issue in 2008. And, back then it wasn't the Dems or I think it was the Republicans in charge then too, right? So you can't say it's just cyclical, right?
Yeah.
This is a cyclical thing. And, the Democrats are in charge right now. Doesn't mean that it's their fault. It's the Democrats and the Republicans and your politicians, your policymakers' faults that this is all happening, right?
Yeah.
And, you could be a Trump hater, you could be a Trump lover, whatever. I don't care. It's the way our system is set up. And it's because of, there's a bigger conversation. I know we're at an hour and 14 minutes right now, but it's because it all started off when Nixon went to fiat currency. And that was the beginning of breaking the money system that we have.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's another topic.
Are we getting to the Slurpee?
Yes. Happy 7-Eleven days.
All right.
85 years, guys. 7-Eleven has been around 85 years.
Unbelievable.
Holy moly. And they're doing well. They're continuing to grow. Back in my college days, which wasn't that far ago. I graduated with my bachelor's when I was 41. So one of my projects was to do something on 7-Eleven in a foreign country. So in Japan, they actually have a program. Their 7-Eleven is totally different than our system is set up. And it was a supply chain class. So I had to talk about the Kanban and just all this stuff. The way they're set up is if you need an SD card or a cable or a hot dog or dried fish or whatever, and that's the major seller over there is dried fish. You would say, hey, I want this to be delivered at this 7-Eleven. Nowadays, they actually deliver to your house. So 7-Eleven here is totally different than it is in Japan.
Yeah.
But
what's funny, when you ever buy tickets to a concert or to a movie or whatever online, they always have this convenience fee that they add on, right? That you're not aware of until you're ready to give them the credit card. Well, isn't it funny that these stores are called convenience stores, right? Right. But it's so convenient that they, you ever seen the prices of some of the goods that you buy in there? Go get a half a gallon of milk in there and tell me what that costs when you walk on out. But gas stations, I was just hearing it again on the news the other day, especially if it's a 7-Eleven with a gas station or any of those convenience stores that are always tied in.
Right.
It's like the popcorn and the Coke at the theaters. That's where they make all their money. It's not on the gas. It's very little on the gas, but they're making it convenient. I don't have to go into a grocery store to get the little item that I just popped into my head on the way home.
Right.
You're gonna pay a pretty penny for it, but then they got all these awesome treats that get you in there, like Slurpees
and 5-day-old hot dogs.
I'll be honest, my son graduated high school last year. My daughter's a senior, but when they were younger, man, whenever they said, "Hey, Dad, can we swing by a 7-Eleven for a Slurpee?" I rarely said no. Right. Dad had to get one too.
I just took one of my daughters driving yesterday because we were driving home from church, and they're like, "Hey, how come we never go driving?" So I just stopped and we went to a parking lot. But the time before, I had both of my daughters in there, and I drove to 7-Eleven so you can get the Slurpees. And, you can get the small Slurpee or the 70-ounce.
Yeah, you need a shovel
Slurpee.
for it.
And they're all $2.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. 5 pennies are different, so it doesn't matter. So
everybody overfills it too, and it's comes dripping down.
So they had both of them had the mega Slurpees, and I had this regular size one. And we went to the parking lot, and we're driving around.
Getting a brain freeze.
So, so today you can go to any 7-Eleven and get a 7.11 ounce Slurpee for free. Just tell them Vito and Scott sent you.
Absolutely. I'm sure kids know about it. It's all over social media. They're going to be hopping to, from 7-Eleven to 7-Eleven.
Yep.
Getting a free Slurpee today. A lot of brain freezes today. It's probably the #1 day in the world that there, if you were to add up the amount of brain freezes that are going to happen today, it's today.
I wonder how many car accidents actually happen because of brain freezes.
Yeah.
See a little blip go up.
Well, hey, right.
Scott, I've been invited on a podcast at 12 noon and I have to get moving. So got to get my ducks in a row. Dude, I appreciate you jumping on, and thanks for being patient with me working through this technology.
We got through it. I'm just glad it wasn't me. I thought it was me this time, man. I was like, again, no. Yeah. Tell me it isn't so.
It was. I was like, just reboot your system. Just reboot it. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I should do it. So, all right.
Well, I'm off to 7-Eleven.
All right. We'll see you out there.
All right. We'll see you. Bye.
Bye.